Hello and welcome back to Mystery Shots. Nick Marshall is a Chicago advertising executive who was raised by his showgirl mother in Las Vegas, but he has no father. As a result, his mother surrounded him with typical men who slept with different women every night, just as he does now as a grown-up. He now has an ex-wife named Gigi, with whom he has a 15-year-old daughter named Alex, who lives with his mother. However, Nick's relationship with his daughter appears to be strained because he does not seem to care about his daughter. Before leaving for work, he meets his potential love interest, Lola, a coffee shop employee. He was in his office. Nick is an expert at selling products to men and seducing women, which makes some of his female coworkers uncomfortable. However, he has no idea what women are thinking. Following that, he attends a meeting at the advertising firm, Sloan Curtis, where he expects to be promoted. But his manager Dan instead announces that he is hiring a woman named Darcy to broaden the firm's appeal to women, as the company is looking for a new strategy of selling products to women. Following work, he attends his ex-wedding, where Gigi announces that she will be on a 2-week honeymoon with her new husband Ted. As a result, she wishes to leave Alex in the care of Nick until she returns from her honeymoon. She also informs him that their daughter now has a boyfriend. Hearing that Nick does not approve of his daughter dating, but Alex has not received affection from him. She is unconcerned about what he says. The next day, Nick attends a staff meeting where Darcy directs the company to prioritize female consumers. She even proposes a new type of campaign to make the company more sensitive to women's needs. As a result, she distributes boxes containing women's products to the staff, including Nick, and assigns them the task of developing advertising ideas to sell the products. Darcy's idea, however, increases Nick's mistrust of her because he is a chauvinist who only sees women as objects. That night, Nick tests all of the women's products while brainstorming advertising concepts. Not long after, his daughter appears accompanied by her 18-year-old boyfriend Cameron. Although Alex is not bothered by her father's attire, she is upset because Nick took one of her music discs without her permission. She gets even more angrier after her father proves that he never listens to her by not remembering her boyfriend's name. Alex goes into her room after the argument, while Nick searches for another idea. He then stumbles and falls in the bathtub while holding an electric hair dryer, electrocuting himself. As a result, he collapses on the floor until Stella, his housemaid, wakes him up. The following morning, since then Nick has been able to hear all women's thoughts, though he is unaware of his new ability at first. He then goes to his office, where he finally has an epiphany, realizing that most of his female coworkers, who always smile at him, actually dislike him and think he's sleazy. He also discovers that one of his female coworkers, Erin, appears to be unhappy with her life after hearing her thoughts. Aside from that, what irritates him the most is hearing so many thoughts at once, which drives him insane. As a result, Nick tries to enlist the assistance of his partner, but he, too, does not believe his words. During a meeting with Darcy, Nick employs his ability to impress her, but no matter how many times he reads all of his female colleagues' thoughts, her ideas are still rejected. Late at night, he attempts to recreate everything he did prior to gaining the ability. He tries all of the women's products again and attempts to electrocute himself in the rain, but his efforts are futile when he discovers that he can still hear women's thoughts. The day after that, Nick pays an unexpected visit to his former therapist Dr. Perkins, who he and his ex-wife saw 10 years ago. After discovering his talent, she initially does not believe anything he says, but she eventually does after Nick begins telling her what she is thinking. As a result, the doctor advises him to take advantage of his newfound ability, as he now knows what women want. Following that, Nick pays Lola a visit in a coffee shop and uses his ability to ask her on a date. Not only that, but he begins to treat his female colleagues with respect and even assists a depressed Erin in organizing her misplaced documents. When he first meets Darcy, he eavesdrops on her telepathically and steals her ideas to use as his own, making himself look good in front of Dan. At the same time, he gradually develops feelings for her. Nick then returns home to find Alex and her friends discussing their prom night. To make amends, he invites her to go prom dress shopping on another day. Later, he goes on a date with Lola, which does not go so well at first, but he eventually realizes that his ability is actually very useful in making love and winning her over. He now enjoys being around women in order to learn about their thoughts and feelings. Nick also begins spending a lot of time with Darcy, who admires him for understanding her thoughts. His relationship with Alex is improving after he promised to take his daughter to buy a prom dress. Following that, the two have lunch at a restaurant, where Nick learns telepathically that Alex plans to sleep with Cameron on the night of the prom. As a result, he tries to counsel her, telling her that Cameron is only interested in her for what he can do with her in bed, not for who she is. Alex, on the other hand, rejects his advice because she believes her father is overprotective and attempting to sabotage her prom. Soon after, Nick goes on a date with Darcy, and the two fall in love. Following dinner, they end up kissing, but he politely declines her invitation to her home. As Nick prepares to enter his apartment, Lola approaches him unexpectedly, thinking that their relationship is going to be serious, and says she can't stand it if he doesn't call her to see her again. Because Nick no longer wants to hurt women, he deceives her by telling her that he likes other men. The following day, after stealing Darcy's latest idea for a new Nike ad campaign aimed at women, Nick feels guilty. As a result, he asks her to present the new campaign. However, she refuses because she believes she does not deserve credit for the new campaign. Plus, she only wants the best for Nick because she is madly in love with him. Prior to the presentation, Nick inadvertently hears Erin's suicidal thoughts as a result of the job Nick has given her for the past 2 years. To summarize, his presentation goes extremely well, and Nike eventually closes the deal. Nick decides to write Darcy a letter to confess everything he did because he still wants to apologize to her, but Darcy abruptly interrupts him to celebrate their success. Afterwards, she drives him to her new home, which is still being renovated. Inside, they spend the entire time talking and dancing. Later, Nick returns to work, determined to correct his error by telling Dan that Darcy had all the ideas. Dan, on the other hand, is already convinced that Nick is his best employee and decides to promote him. As a result, Nick comes to regret his actions, particularly when Dan fires Darcy because she contributed nothing to the new campaign. He then convinces Dan to rehire her by claiming that the campaign was her idea. He realizes this shortly after Erin does not show up for work that day, so he decides to look for her. Despite the rain, he's on his way. A severe lightning storm strikes some of the overhead wires, but he ignores it as if nothing happened to him. He then rushes to Erin's house in search of a suicide note. Fortunately, she has not yet had the opportunity to end her life. As Nick converses with her, he realizes he has finally lost his ability to hear the thoughts of women. To keep her from killing herself, he offers Erin a better position, which she previously declined, and she accepts. Following that, he goes to Darcy's house, where she completely ignores him because she is upset. Meanwhile, Nick receives a phone call from Gigi, who is concerned about their daughter. As a result, when he arrives at the prom, he finds Alex crying inside a bathroom stall because Cameron dumped her for refusing to have sex. Alex finally comes outside after attempting to console her, and the two return home together, cementing their newly repaired relationship. When his daughter goes to sleep, he tries to apologize to Darcy once more, so he goes to her new house to find her. This time she lets him in, and Nick finally tells her everything. Darcy eventually forgives him despite initially firing him for everything he did. He departs from her home. Finally, Nick realizes that he cannot treat women as objects, and they both share a kiss, living happily ever after. Like and comment your thoughts about this mystery shot. And don't forget to subscribe Mystery Shots.